So for the last 2 years or so, my girlfriend and I have been living seasonally in this conversion van. We bought it fully converted, and the thing I was most excited about as far as features was really solar. You see that right up there. That actually has a solar panel, and there were a set of batteries, a solar controller, whole deal. And it worked great for about 2 weeks, at which point we realized that it had been done very badly and that we were at risk of a fire. So next thing you know, I have to rip all that out just for safety. And the one feature I really want is the one we don't have, but it's okay because life got really simple right around then, because just as I adjusted to the fact I was going to have to charge my phone and my laptops at local libraries, everything shut down due to COVID. The system that was in the van was not salvageable. In addition to having some fire danger, the batteries that it had were AGMs, and they ended up drained during a storm, and they were just done, and we weren't going to put a couple of $1,000s into battle-born lithiums, even if we had a place in the van where we could store those. But then I ended up getting on trail, and I learned to live off a little, pocket battery anyway, so it all worked out. It really didn't become a pressing issue until I got back from the Eastern Continental Trail, at which point we found a solution that worked well for us. Power stations. I've talked about what these things are and how we use them elsewhere, but just to summarize, they're about 5 times as big as the little pocket batteries we were using. They're reasonably easy to move around, and we could charge them off a wall. So we got one, we hooked that into the lights, and then eventually we got a second one. Now, all this time, we have been taking them into libraries, gen school, other things like that, in order to charge them about once a week, which is fine, but it was kind of a pain. Now, I always get questions of why didn't we just hook that solar panel back up to something? That solar panel is, you see how there's a rim around the mounting? That actually blocks the sun off the panel, so it really does not get enough power. In order to make that functional, I would basically have to be able to lift it up so it would have unblocked view of the sun. And that's something I want to do, but that's not easy short term for various reasons. Someday I'm going to manage to get this thing fixed, but yeah. And then I had somebody reach out and give me the opportunity to test something I was really excited for, a solar panel. Now, just to give you some context, I really love solar power as a concept. I always want it to work way better than it is. I bought the Garmin Fenix watch that has the solar panel on it for recharging, and I have tried more than once those little hiker solar panels, which, spoiler alert, they don't work worth a damn. So when we got the van and it had a whole solar system, it was like a dream come true. I was really excited for it. I was geeking out on it, and I was really bummed when we had to rip it out. I'm always worried I'm not going to have enough power, so I had been planning on trying to get a 160 or 200 watt panel to hook up. But this thing has actually really impressed me. Now, just to be clear, our use case is very simplified. Yes, that's a refrigerator. It has not been hooked up since the original batteries failed. We used to have a microwave, same thing. We used to have a TV, got rid of it, ripped out a wall, and put in a swivel chair. Way better. Per the documentation, this thing is supposed to be weatherproof, and I have left it out multiple days exposed to the sun, though I usually bring it in if it's going to rain much. While, okay, this panel, I don't think anything's going to happen to. Some of this is cloth, and I don't really like getting that wet. It's also just heavy enough where it's not hard to move around, but I don't have to worry about it getting blown around or blown off the top of the van. I've actually had it through a couple of rounds of Santa Ana wind warnings, and it hasn't budged at all. The panel does have a little USB hub on it, so I can plug devices directly into it. I usually don't, though. I usually charge the batteries and work off of that. The DC input is what I use to attach to the power station. So the reason I don't like hooking the phone or other devices up directly to the solar panel, it works, but those USB ports only put out a very small amount of power. So it's much more efficient for me to charge my batteries and then charge my phone off of there, rather than just get a little trickle off the solar panel. Now, this unit actually comes with a whole bunch of adapters, so even though my 2 power stations use different adapters, I was able to have it up and running within just a couple of minutes. So it basically came out of the box with everything I needed to run. The only thing I have bought to supplement this is an extension cable for the DC cable. So basically, if I needed to, I could stick it outside and still have it plugged into the power station. Now, I haven't actually needed to use that extension cable because of a quirk of how our van is built. The most convenient place for me to store the panel is actually on the roof, which is right outside one of the windows of the sports stop. So I can basically unzip that window, flop the panel up there, and just run the cable through the window zipper. I can even have the sun blind up. So that's been really convenient, and I don't have to worry about it lying out being easy for anybody to steal. So to say my expectations were low with this panel would be a massive understatement. I expected it was going to, barely top anything off, but I wanted to play with it. And I figured, okay, we'll try it out and we'll see how it works. And worst case, we get a bigger one later, right? And it promptly blew me away. This thing is amazing. It literally can charge a day's worth of use off one of my batteries in like half a day. Both of our power stations will report the input wattage it's pulling off of the panel. And I found if I just have it lying flat out in direct sunlight, I'm going to get around like 74 watts. If it's less ideal later in the afternoon, I'm going to get around 50. And obviously, if any part of it is blocked, it's going to drop down really, really low. So we've had this panel now for a couple of weeks, and basically we have completely stopped having to take the power stations in to be charged off of a wall. I'm able to keep it topped off just with, again, 4 or 5 hours a day in direct sunlight, which has been great. Now, do I wish that I had a full-on hard panel up on the roof? Yeah, a little bit. It's just because it's a hassle. This panel being deployable, I have to make sure and pull it before we move anywhere. I have to make sure not to leave it out because I don't want it to get stolen. My ideal is still to have something that's just on the roof, runs all the time, tops off the batteries. But, this works for us. This is just the initial model that they are releasing on the market, so you can't hook multiple panels up to the same device. However, a future version that they're going to release is going to have that feature. I really thought that was the way I was going to have to go, but hey. This panel can be bought at VanPowerS.com and currently retails for $250.